Hello guys, and welcome to a new Wargame tutorial today by me, Vulcan. Today I'm going to be going over veterancy, morale and information on units that will be needed for my armory and deck tutorials that I plan to bring out in the future. So today I'm going to be going into the deck. I'm going to be creating a new random deck, and I'm just going to be going over some of the information that is displayed in the armory that is necessary for my explanations when it comes to analysing every single unit individually. So first of all, there is veterancy. These are the 5 boxes underneath the main bar where you choose your units. There is rookie, trained, hardened, veteran and elite, and you can't get every unit with every veteran status. So you have to choose carefully, and the higher you pick a veteran status, the less units you get for availability. Now, veterancy is a very awesome thing in Wargame, and it allows your tank with, say, for instance, this Harpon. If I take 8 veteran ones, this will improve their accuracy. They will aim faster and they will engage faster than a trained unit. Because the higher the veterancy, the higher all of those aspects are. Now, you have to obviously find a balance between availability and veterancy, but with HGM infantry you have to think about how accurate you want your HGMs to be, because if you take a veteran HGM squad over a trained veteran or trained veterancy squad, then the veteran squad may hit more targets but will get killed easier, and you won't have as many of them to use, whereas a trained unit might not hit as much, but you'll have a lot more of them to spread about, and then they might train themselves. Because the way veterancy works is that if they are exposed to enemy units, not necessarily firing upon them, but maybe being fired upon, then they can improve their veterancy by themselves. Also, just from combat anyway, if they kill units, for example, then they're likely to get a big bonus in their veterancy. Now, this leads on to morale, and morale isn't very easy to demonstrate in the armory, but basically there's 5 states of morale. You've got calm, worried, shaken, panicked, and rout. Now, the morale is reduced by taking fire and taking nearby fire, so if something blows up next to them, deaths of nearby friendly troops, and also exposure to flame units. This is directly affected though by suppression. You can see on the right side in the information tool tab you've got a suppression stat. It's basically the suppression damage is the morale damage per shot, and basically the higher the value, the faster it stuns the enemy, and also the more morale damage it obviously does. If they have a higher rate of fire, then they're going to do that suppression damage a lot quicker, and your troops will suffer from reduced accuracy and fire rate. So anyway, with the veterancy and morale roughly covered, if you have any questions about that, please leave them in the comments. Now I'm going to go over the tool tab on the right and just demonstrate some of the statistics that you can see on this side. So to do so, I'm going to go to the tanks quickly. I'm going to pick an AMX-30B2 just to demonstrate this. First of all, you can see the weapons at the top. Each of these are clearly labelled if you hover over them. It says main gun. For its main gun, you've got the auto cannon, which it has on the top of the tank here, and we've got an MMG, a medium machine gun, mounted on the vehicle as well. Now, there is 3 range stats. We have range versus ground, which is obviously range versus ground, and then you got range versus helicopters and range versus airplanes. If either of these are unmarked, as you can see for the range versus helicopters and range versus aeroplanes, that means obviously that the main gun cannot fire at either of those types of targets. Now, before I move down even further, we'll just have a look at the caliber. You can see the caliber doesn't really make much of a difference in terms of actual statistics and damage, but you can basically say that a higher caliber gun will tend to do more damage than a lower caliber one. We also have to mention these tags. You can see we have a kinetic tag. This means that the closer the tank is to an enemy tank, the more damage it will deal, and you can see that that's exactly what it says in the tooltip. The closer that it will get from its target, the higher its AP value will rise. And then we have an area of effect tag on here, which is applied for the HE power. This is also the case for the autocannon. You can see most autocannons also have kinetic rounds, and the closer they get, the more damage they will deal. That's what makes autocannon rushes really, really effective. So, accuracy. For each point of accuracy, you get your accuracy increased by 5%. So, for instance, this AMX30B2 has 10 accuracy. That means it has a 50% chance of hitting while stationary with a direct shot at maximum range. As it gets closer to the target, it will also increase its accuracy, and furthermore, accuracy is also dealt with by the veterancy modifier, which, if for instance the AMX30B2 is elite, then it will have a 60% extra chance of hitting on top of the 50%. So that's 60% of 50%, i.e. times 1.60. So basically, if you've got a rookie status, it'll be times 1. Trained is times 1.1. Hardened is times 1.26. Veteran is times 1.36. And elite is times 1.6. And that is times the accuracy number. And then you work out how much percent that equates to. I know it's a bit complicated, but I wouldn't worry too much about it. Just know that blue is obviously the best. So if you're looking at the colours on here, you can see that orange is moderate, green is good, and blue is exceptional, and then red is bad. So yeah, watch out for those more than actually working it out for yourself. Now, we got AP power. Now, AP power is the damage applied against armor, and this can be worked out by taking the attack value of this. You can see it has an AP power of 7. Say if we were firing an AMX30B2 against another AMX30B2, we can see we have an AP power of 12, and it's going to be firing into the front. So we've got 12 and we've got 7. So you take away the attack value from the armor value. So you take away 12 from 7. Well, 7 from 12, sorry. And that leaves you with 5. Then you divide it by 2, which is 2.5, and then you add 1, and that will be 3.5, and then you round up from 5, so that'll be 4. So we'll deal 4 damage to an opposing AMX30B2 because it has 7 front armor. And it sounds easy enough to work out, but I wouldn't, again, worry about it too much. Just know that some of the best tanks, for instance, this one has an AP power of 17, but it has an armor of 19, whereas the Abrams has an AP power of 19 and an armor of 17. And this means that the Challenger, where it has a lower AP power than the Abrams, or than a Leopard's armor, there it will actually have to get closer to the Leopard to actually deal damage. If the AP power of a tank is lower than that of the opposing's armor, it will have to get closer to the tank before it can deal minimum damage. This obviously will allow the enemy tanks to get more shots off before you even get close, and therefore it's not even recommended if you're that far away. Now, HE damage, which is the next stat, is dealt as flat damage to any infantry squads or unarmored targets. So there's not too much to calculate about that. It will do 3 damage, and that is about it. Under that, we obviously have rate of fire, 7 rounds per minute. That's what that means there. And then we have the armor statistics, front, top, rear and side armor. And this is also displayed on the right side in terms of a bar. If we go to the Challenger, for instance, you can see that the front armor is exceptional. We've got the side armor is good, back armor is medium, and then the top armor is poor or bad. Now, underneath that, we have the strength of the unit. The strength of the unit is the amount of hit points that the unit has, or the number of soldiers in the squad. You can see that by looking at the tooltip. We have the size of the unit. Now, the size of the unit, it says the bigger, the more chance to be hit. Now, this isn't necessarily the case, because if a tank, for instance, is of a medium size, it won't actually increase or decrease the chance to be hit. If the size is big, then it will increase the chance to be hit. If the size is small or very small, it will decrease the chance to be hit. And we can move on to optics now. Optics determines the range that a unit will spot another unit. There are 2 values for the optics units, but you can only see one in this tool tab. Now, I know this might sound confusing. Basically, for instance, the Challenger and tanks will only show their optics versus ground units. So in this case, you can see that the Challenger one has medium optics versus ground units. That doesn't mean that it has medium optics versus air units or helicopters. So that's also something to bear in mind. But if we go to support units, and for instance we take a look at a Chaparral, you see it has good optics. This matches the lowest recon. Now, that doesn't mean that they are good as recon. This means that they have good optics versus air units only, because obviously there's 2 types of optics. You've got optics versus air units and optics versus ground units, and in this case it's anti-air units display the optics versus air units because that is logical. Now, again, it sounds confusing, and if we go over to recon vehicles and we take a look at something with optics of very good, that is very good optics versus both air and ground units because it's a recon vehicle. Now, the other statistics of their optics for tanks and for anti-air units, I don't think are disclosed anywhere else in the game, so don't go looking for them. Now, underneath that, we have the self-explanatory speed and obviously road speed in the middle here. Then we have stealth. Now, stealth, basically, the better the stealth, the closer you can get to the enemy before being detected. And as you can see in the tooltip, it also depends on distance, covers enemy optics and firing noise, which I believe is dealt with by caliber of gun. So I think that's something you need to be careful of. Then we have fuel capacity, which is the amount of fuel that it has in the tank, and the autonomy, which is how far the vehicle can go without running out of fuel. Then on the right side we have the stabilizer. Now, the stabilizer is something that's really worth working out. Basically, any vehicle with no stabilizer, when it's on the move, will only have a 5% chance of hitting, no matter its normal accuracy. Basically, The best way to get around this is to use attack move, so that every time your unit comes into range of an enemy, it will stop and attack rather than attack on the move. Otherwise it will only have a 5% chance of hitting, which is not very good. A bad stabilizer gives you half the accuracy of the normal accuracy of the unit. Medium gives you 51 to 75% of the accuracy. Good gives you 75 to 85% of the accuracy, and exceptional gives you more than 85% of the accuracy while on the move. So if we go to the Leopard 2A4, we have an accuracy of 10 and a very good stabilizer. That means we will have only between 75 and 85% of the accuracy, so somewhere in the lines or between the lines of 7 and 8 accuracy, which equates to roughly 40% accuracy while on the move. Now underneath that we have the year and the type. Now these both are correspondent to when you are creating decks, so you need to know when the type of unit was created so that you can have it on your deck, and also the type is telling you what types of decks that you can get this vehicle on. So yeah, that's about it for the unit statistics. If we go to planes though, there is one more, and that is ECM. Now this works very similar to size, but basically better ECM equals to a smaller hit chance, and basically all the planes rely on this very, very heavily because they don't have armor, so they have to rely on their ECM, which basically voids missiles from hitting them. Better ECM is obviously going to keep them alive longer, but as soon as they're hit and they're stunned, ECM no longer takes in any effect and missiles will hit them whenever they like, so bear that in mind. Right, that's about it for today. I will be continuing with armory and deck tutorials after this, so feel free to take a look at my other 2 tutorials before this and get prepared for my armory and deck tutorials. But hopefully this was useful. Basically went through all of the different statistics on the armory so that I don't have to explain them in a large amount of detail when I come round to them and explaining each and every unit. So thanks for watching, hope it's been useful, and I'll see you in the next video. Goodbye.